long time no see. Yeah, what's it been, like 16 hours? Is my audio coming through? Cyber Gaming Studios. Looks like audio is good. I'm going to step away for a little bit to let people get here before I start explaining what we're doing. Just going to refill my soda. God, stream health is already in the yellow. And we only have 7 people watching. Check to see if my settings are still the same as they were yesterday. Yeah, 1000 bit rate, 4-second keyframe interval. So I don't really know why the health keeps declining. It could be that I'm just using this one laptop and OBS with 4 different sources on it. Somebody wants to wire a headphone jack to a Nest controller. I would say there's not an easy way. I know it's the thing with the new controllers to have the headphones plugged into it, but there's not enough conductors in the cord from the controller to the console to make that happen. You may as well just run it to the audio outputs of the console. I want to say, was there an aftermarket controller that did that? Or maybe Famicom controllers had headphone jacks? I could be thinking of a different console. But I think they had like a pigtail that came out of the console connector that went around to the audio. Okay, so I said I'd come back and stream finishing this thing. We're adding Voltar's RGB amp. So far we have recapped it and added my region mod. And we have changed the 5-pin DIN to an 8-pin DIN. And I have the composite video pin bent out because Voltar's RGB amp properly buffers composite sync and gives a better signal. So this will be a specific what do I want to say? You'll be using a specific SCART cord for this, and it's going to be a pass-through where there's no electronics inside of it. The Deutschen Dance RX that I did was that way, and the customer said it's great. But the problem is you're deleting composite video from this connector, which sucks, I guess, if you're into that. Composite video is so good on this family of consoles, it's crazy. We had that discussion, it might have been on the RX video. Somebody's, you know, the typical, somebody will show up and say, oh, just S-video modify it, you know, it's good enough. And my argument has always been on these consoles, this whole family of consoles, is the composite video is so good that you're really not going to get that much of a benefit from S-video mod. It's a waste. Either go component RGB or hopefully someday HDMI. Yeah, it's the same board as yesterday. People in the chat, if you want to watch the chat for me and tell people, you have to tag me in your question or comment at GameTechUS, one word. It'll highlight it in the chat for me, and I can just quickly look up and see the comment question and reply to it. Because when I'm trying to work and focus on this, I'm not really looking at the chat scroll very much. So after the stream ended, I was kind of half watching My Life in Gaming stream. They were just playing the new SNES Classic Mini, and I wasn't really into it, you know, so I was kind of talking to Voltar about where he places his RGB amp, and he showed me 3 pictures. And you know, at one point I was like, you know, I'm assuming a lot of people like to put it on top up here, and he showed me a picture where it was here, and I didn't like that. And he doesn't either. He showed me 2 pictures where it was on the bottom. He had one person had placed it here, which that's a really good place as far as there's not much going on as far as traces right there. You know, I think that's power and ground. And it's a lot flatter, but there is enough. I just checked. There's over a 1/4 inch between the bottom of the motherboard and the RF shielding on the bottom. If you measure that dip right there, the motherboard sits right on top. There's like I forget what it was, 0.2, I don't know, 0.29 or something inches. And I laid this up here and measured down, and there's plenty of room. So I think I'm going to put mine right here, like this. Ken Hancock, have a great day. Wish you could do HDMI mod on my 3DO FZ1. Can't find any to what? Can't find any to buy? Is the I don't believe there is one, is there? Not for 3DO. There's an RGB mod. You can run that to a FrameMeister. So I did one a couple years ago, I think. I think that might have been Otaku mod. So anyway, the one thing that Voltar was kind of adamant about was that the inputs, I got this backwards, should be as short as possible because they're unattenuated. There's 2 words he said, unattenuated and something else. but they pick up noise easier than the outputs. So we're going to end up running a wire all the way down here and over to the DIN connector on the top. So I'm sitting here looking at this, and I think that's where I want to place it because it touches over both chips. And I probably am going to just use a little tiny dab of hot glue on each chip and push that down. And then we'll just run wires from, what was it, 47, 951. Was it 44 was composite sync? I'll have to look that up again. I can't find any 1-2 mod. Try the guys on my recommended modder list. There's a link to them on my frequently asked questions page, if that's what you're asking. As far as I know, an HDMI mod doesn't exist for 3DO though. But if I'm wrong, let me know. Okay. I got this giant glob of hot glue that I keep reusing. Couldn't tell you where I got it from now. It looks like it was over the top of a chip. I can see the chip legs. That's funny. It takes forever to go through that much hot glue. Now that I use it sparingly, as we all should. We should all strive to use hot glue sparingly. I'll tell you what, Rob at OFS Mods needs to hurry up and hook me up with this 3D printed tip stand, because I've got like 20 tips sitting over here that I've saved that I want to have access to for myself, and it just creates this giant mess over here. He found somebody that posted this, I guess, or maybe he designed it himself, where the holder, you just stick this end into a holder, which is perfect because this end doesn't get hot. It's like from right here forward gets hot, and you can't grab onto it. But I could stick it into the holder and let it cool that way. Now I have to lay it down on more tips or something so it doesn't burn. There's the one I used on the first N64 install. I don't think I've used it since, and I was really curious to use. Man, why do I have 4 of these? Maybe I do need to dial this one down again. I was curious to use this tip on that install because I like that it's angled and it's at least half the size, and this one was about 25% too big anyway. But then I started using this tip to do the illustration of my FFC, and it seems to work just good, just as good. It seems like no matter what I do, I still get shorts and have to go back over it. I think this was all of them, and I wanted to keep all of these because I thought maybe I might actually start using those a lot. There's the tip I use for the illustration HDMI. That's a larger version. Definitely need to get this area organized more. There's the tip, an old 939 that I probably put hot glue on a nice new 939, and it screwed it up. Like all the chemicals in the hot glue is just really bad for tips. good at being noob. We are finishing the stream from last night where we're region mod, RGB mod, and recapping a PCEngine duo. I think what I'd like to do now is prep the pins, tin them up a little bit better so when I solder wires to them they'll stick easier. Yeah, 44 is our sync. 47 green, 49 red, 51 blue. Gah. That sucks. It's just a consequence of this, but putting the board here means that those 4 signals are going to cross over each other. HDMI mod for PCEngine TG16 would be sweet. I agree. I can't wait for somebody to hurry up and make that happen. Yes, we're doing another run of high-def NES boards. There's just no information or updates on when. I'm going to resort to the thinnest wire I have for this. Although I do have some leftover wire from the Doijin Dance mod. Let's try that. That's magnet wire, that's what I was using a lot. I don't love this stuff because my stripper doesn't like it. It just wants to trash it. That actually worked though. Switch to my really thin conical tip here. 2245 930. I could pull the pad up from underneath of 47. Bridge. One thing the cone is not good for is de-bridging pins. Oh, got it. Lucky. One thing I'm curious of is those pins even go anywhere, because I think I've lifted 47. I don't think those RGB pins actually go anywhere. Maybe I didn't lift it, but another thing I don't like about those strippers, with the, if it's short, it doesn't want to work. I'm going to switch back to the knife edge. Somebody trying to ask a question? Luckily, the thermoplastic on this wire is melting away. Somewhat with heat, so I don't really have to worry about stripping it. There, how does that look? Want a close-up? I'm not sure if I can get much closer than that. Nope. Not sure if the top-down camera, without not much help, I could probably get it closer, but you get the general idea, right? Did I ever do a 12-volt DC mod to a console? What are you talking about? So where's the convenient 5-volt and ground here? This is our 5-volt pin up here. Well, there's 5 volts real easy. Looks like 39 is a ground, but I'd much rather just go to the bottom side of C959 right there. I like that way better. Mad about soldering fine pitch. I think more it's about confidence. I know that I can unbridge a solder bridge, so I'm not super worried about it. I've got myself into some sticky situations, but for the most part I can get back out of them. I'm going to do something obvious and cut this to length ahead of time and then strip it first. Although this may not work because my strippers love to go overboard and pull the jacketing off of the wire, not actually cut it sometimes. Some fresh flux down to that tip. Seems a little dried out. Sometimes I'll actually spray a little rubbing alcohol onto it to kind of loosen up the flux. Seems to help quite a bit. Jason ever come back and say what he meant by 12-volt mod? I'm starting to wonder if he meant like to run it off of a 12-volt system in a car. And if that's the case, then no. I think most consoles already have some kind of adapter to run on 12 volts. And most consoles have a 7805 in them anyway, and doesn't really require much to make. Oh man, forgot to strip the other side. Oh, Pico PSU setups. I want to cut out the reliance on converter-inverter. No, I have not done one, but it sounds interesting. Kind of do like an internal power mod using a computer-like miniature AC or power supply. That's one thing you don't get to see on the polished videos, is me dropping shit constantly. I'm real good at it. I think I got a bridge on 47 to 46. That's why I love this station. Changing tips is just stupid easy. Well, I think that did it. One way to find out. I've seen people mod a Pico PSU to run the original Xbox right off the car battery. Not sure how possible that is for other consoles, but thought it might be fitting. Well, I have honestly never been asked to do automotive type mod work. So I'm not sure how popular it is. The bridge is still there. I have to break out the 30 times I loop. I just got this. That is too difficult to even see. I used to repair farm equipment, sort of. It was specific equipment. It was anhydrous ammonia application systems. Look up Exactrix, EXACTRX. That's the company I used to work for. A very complicated, convoluted system. Actually did a lot more installation and troubleshooting and oh, can't think of the word. Like I would teach people how to use it. I got rid of the bridge to the left, and now I got one to the right. This is why I like using that magnet wire. Very small, solid wire. Very much preferred over stranded wire for this tiny work. What the hell? Now my bridge to the left is back, or it never went away. It doesn't look like it's there at all. Does it say it's bridged without the wire soldered to it? No. I think I'm going to start with a fresh end on this wire. Strands are starting to spread out. Makes it really irritating. Oh yeah, the Mega Squirt ECU. Oh, I'd love to learn more about that, because I actually have a shell of a turbo coupe that I was going to start putting everything into, because it's not a rusted out shell like what I'm driving now, and it had keyless entry, so it had the numbers on the side, and it had sunroof and leather interior, just a much nicer version of the turbo coupe. But it had no engine wiring, no engine, transmission, or rear end. And I've got a transmission, no engine wiring harness yet. I want to say I've got a drive shaft, but not the rear end yet still. But yeah, it'd be cool to put a Mega Squirt on it. Or what's the other one? Not Mega Squirt. There's another replacement type thing for it. Not replacement, but optional. Yeah, it got a little excessive with the solder on that one. I got a bridge to the right again. It's worse as the bridge is up top. I always seem to be worse to get off on the top of the pin. Who knows, maybe that small conical tip was actually screwing me up more than anything. I just tapped it with my... What is the name of that one? I think it's 965. It's like the 939, but with less less surface area that soldering will stick to. It's kind of nice. Okay. Uh-oh. Oh, never mind. Looks like was it 50, 52 and 50 are both plus 5-volt analog, possibly. Okay, we are short free of shorts. Double check that the hot glue didn't add too much. No, we're still under. Yeah, I want to say it was 0.2. Might have been 0.269. Oh, no, it was. Yeah, now I'm getting different readings. 0.293. So plenty of space for that to fit like that. Okay. Oh, you can got some RGB wire in here. It might be long enough. RGB in sync. Oh yeah. Perfect. Okay. It's like blue, green, red. Sync. What is the order of those pins? I've already forgot. should be blue, green, red, right? I've seen Voltar do this with the wires behind the cap, so apparently he thinks it's okay. Yes, I've got a bag full of wire just sitting around just in case. How's the stream doing? Still yellow. 57 people watching. Wow. See, it's 1 p.m. here, Eastern Standard Time, so I kind of wondered if people around the world were going to be watching, if it was more later in the evening for them. Because usually when I stream on Sunday nights, or afternoons or whatever, it's not the ideal time for people in Europe or wherever. Inches of ribbon cable here. Go to the region switch. I'm not actually sure if I'm going to use 12 inches yet. I am pretty sure I'm going to use a little toggle switch, which is not my norm. Normally I use a slide switch. I've always preferred slide switches. But this toggle switch where I'm going to mount it isn't going to stick out real far. I'll show you here in a minute. It's not going to stick out real far, so it doesn't bother me as much to use this toggle switch. This is the switch that used to be included in the NES RGB days. I think this is like a second or third iteration of the switch they were using for the pallets. It used to be just this giant single pole quad throw thing. And somehow Tim figured out how to change it to where you jumpered a couple pads on the NES RGB board, and then you could get away with a single pole double throw. "6 p.m. in the UK. Yeah, that is perfect time. I guess technically I don't need to jump into this. I could actually test the RGB real quick, but I'm going to put the switch right here and this plastic off of this post, which is recessed back behind this hole. I don't know what they were planned on using those holes for, but as far as I know, they've never been used for anything yet. But to test the RGB mod, I can just jumper. Actually, yeah, I probably do. I was going to say, maybe I don't. I can just boot to BIOS, the CD BIOS, run a CD game, but I think the region mod chip does actually need to be set for one region or the other, which it doesn't matter for this. Yeah. No, it shouldn't matter for the CD BIOS boot. I'll just set a component leg over outside 2, and then I should be able to test this to make sure the RGB mod was successful. In fact, I think I'm done enough to go ahead and place it in here. Looks like my wires are going to miss that, which is there. And yep. So it's going to miss everything. That's good. So that ends up being a good place for it. I think I'm going to end up wiring the LED, the power LED, to that same cap. So I want to say 904 is off of the other 7805, which I keep thinking that this 7805 comes on only when the CD system is activated. I could be wrong. I don't think they're both on all the time. Let's see, you can see the PVM in the background, so there's the SCART cord. Don't remember where I got it. I just happened to notice they had the right connector on the console side, and opened up the SCART head and it was wired completely wrong. I had to redo it for the dual RX testing, but there's 0 components inside of the SCART head. Can you see that from over there? Super Retro Recycle says there usually isn't here. What? If you're going to tag me in a comment or question, make it a real comment or question that I can understand. I can't follow the chat all the time. So that works. So I wonder which region I'm in. Also, I guess I could just put an EverDrive in and switch real easy there. Obviously on PCEngine mode or not. Yep. Well, that works. Oh, we're talking about the SCART cord. So having a bunch of electronics in the SCART head is just a US thing to make it compatible with our monitors or whatever, probably. Our RGB monitors. Or our upscalers. So that metal shield is miles away from the region mod board. That's a good thing. Looked like an SMS Model 1 RGB cable. Model 1 had native RGB. Well, so did Model 1 Genesis, right? So was that the same connector for Genesis? I don't really care about the connector. It was just that the SCART head part was just so wrong. Alright, so what drill do I need for this? .185. A 3/16 is .187. Hello to Brazil. Somebody again asking about Ultra HDMI. There is no update. Now this is going to be difficult. I like it. And I like it because what I used to do, I used to super glue in a switch a lot like this one. And it looked okay, but it kind of looks like a 2600 lever, but it was just glue for one, and you get a lot of leverage when you're pushing way out here. You get a lot of leverage on the body, so eventually could come off. Then it stuck out pretty far. That's pretty good. Looks like we're not quite centered left or right, but I should have started with the smaller drill bit. Keep it centered. So now the trick is to keep cable length just long enough to where you can open it up like this. Looks like right about there is good. So what was that? Probably 7 inches. doesn't really matter how this is wired up to the region mod board as long as the middle wire is in the middle. Might as well clean the laser lens, right? Spindle height seems to be okay if you're wondering what I was doing. When you set your game on there, obviously you don't want the plastic rubbing, any of this plastic piece rubbing on the bottom of the CD. So I'm just running my finger over to make sure the spindle is higher than the plastic. You know, it's sitting pretty low. They usually do kind of set low. Make a lot of physical noise, like maybe it is scratching the disc. Acts like it's the lid's not open. The switch, I don't think the lid switch is all the way back up. The lid's not closing either. That's what it is. That works. Oh. See, it's not wanting to stop. Had audio CD. Scratched to shit. So I don't care if it gets messed up. I use that. Try to go to the edge of the CD. Make sure it still picks up music all the way at the end. It is having trouble, and we're only not even halfway out there. It sounds rough. I think it's just really scratched. Come on. Not sure if that would show up on camera. Yeah. How freaking scratched it is. Not liking it. I gotta figure out what's wrong with the door. This latch is not coming out. I'm grabbing it. It kind of looks like maybe the door close switch. Yeah, it's stuck down. Now it's not. Plus, I also figured out my toggle switch is not right. It's not a double throw. It's an on. Still works. One way is PCEngine, the other way is US, but in the middle is also PCEngine for some reason. Possibly my capacitors sticking up and hitting it. Seems to be the right area. It's stuck again. Yeah, it's definitely hitting something. Might have to free those up a little more or something. There we go. So, I actually don't have any toggle switches other than those. That I can remember anyway. Speaking of S-Video, right there's some S-Video mini DIN connectors. no toggles. I suspect a bridging pull on my toggle. The toggle is just wrong. It's a an on 3-position switch. Now that I think about it, I can't even remember what that meant. Might still be getting ahead of myself. I might still have to get in there and adjust the pots. Well, it's physically quiet again, and that's good, but it's having trouble seeking. But it might just be this CD is just way too scratched up. How long has this one ran so far? Hour and 42 minutes. Uh-oh. Got an email from Old School Consoles, one of my preferred modders. He sent back an Ultra HDMI kit that he thought was bad, and he says, I just realized that my kit might actually be good. I did another installation and realized the HDMI cable itself was bad. Didn't occur to me to swap the cable. I've had the same thing happen to me with high def NES. Got to the point where nothing was working. Went up to Kevin's to check it out, and it worked for him immediately. That made me mad. I don't think he's watching, but yeah, if he is, I'm definitely going to test your kit at some point soon. I haven't sent it away to Marshall yet. He also wants to know when the next batch of high definition kits are likely to be ready. He doesn't use Twitter. Dave, gotta have Twitter. Nick Mueller's here? What's up, Nick? I do have a question for Nick. Nick's one of the guys at HD Retrovision. I want to know how involved he was with the whole power supply thing they were talking about with one of the first retro roundtables. They said they did they test a bunch of them or whatever, but they ended up choosing one that was UL listed. And I happened to have an aftermarket UL listed power supply that I opened up, and it had crap capacitors inside of it. So my question is, what's the point of getting a UL listed power supply if it's got crap capacitors in it? And wouldn't it be just as awesome to offer a power supply, even if it's not UL listed, that you've put brand new Nishikon or whatever good capacitors into? That's something I'd like to explore and get a professional opinion on one way or another. Mostly because I bought a bunch of cheap Chinese power supplies right before you guys did that episode. So I've got 100 power supplies sitting here that are not UL listed. But it's pretty easy to replace the caps in and probably have a decent power supply afterwards. Yeah, I remember reading that about UL listing. It doesn't not mean it's quality, just means they can't change it without getting it relisted. So it doesn't really have anything to do with the performance of it. It's just that you're likely to get the same power supply each time you order it. Oh, yeah, I remember that. You found a great power supply that wasn't UL listed and had been recommending it, but then they changed it. think I need to find a new audio CD that has audio all the way out to the outside of the disc, which is why I was using that one, but it's too scratched up for testing anymore apparently. Well, what do you think, Nick, about the non-UL listed power supply with new caps in it? Not sure to the degree which anyone might be out there lying about UL listed. Good point, because these are from China. Although if they're listed, shouldn't you be able to look them up on the UL website? This is the one that I bought. Doesn't say anything about being UL listed. It's 9 volt 2 amps, which was one of the reasons I bought it, but also the tip, it does 5.5 by 2.1 or 2.5. It's got the tongs inside that'll stretch for the larger pin. And I also bought this one because it has a regular plug end instead of being a wall wart. It has the same thing with the 5.5 by 2.1 or 2.5. And it's also 9 volt 2 amp. Both are positive tip polarity. Doesn't that CE logo mean something though? Is that an FCC logo? I would not trust any of this stuff. Nick says, yeah, you should be able to look it up if it's UL listed. Ooh, yeah, I might actually have Enema Tools album. I always went for that CD just because I don't care about it. It was one of my dad's CDs I found. Didn't want to scratch up any of my own CDs. But now I could care less about physical media for the most part. CE can be two different things. Oh, CE versus C space E. Space in between is different for China export. Do I like Typo Negative? I never pursued it beyond their first album, and yeah, there's a few songs on there that I still listen to. Broken had a ton of track markers. Oh, that's right. I actually had a version of Broken that they included that little, what was a 3-inch CD? So the regular CD just had like whatever it was, tracks 1 through 8 or whatever, and then that little CD had the 2 hidden tracks on it, and that freaking thing broke. Made me mad. But yeah, I think I had to go buy another one, and then they put like 100 tracks on it, and you had to go all the way to the end to get to 2 hidden tracks. So annoying. was going, Nick said the only way to really evaluate the power supplies is putting them on the scope under load. So we're just measuring ripple, I guess. Not sure if cap change will do it or if the design is just bad. Fair enough. See ya, Nick. No, I probably will shut this stream off here in a little while. This project's basically done anyway. If I do stream again, it'll be with a different project. And I'm going to go see if I can find that tool in the CD. Because the game runs fine. Well, that was fast. Yeah, they went all the way up to the end. I must have used this one because this one's got some marks on it. There's my broken CD. Ugh, heartbreaking. I always meant to try to find another replacement of that. Just never pursued it. It went right to track 15, no problem.
See, I think drugs have done some good.
But
See, I think folks have done good things. Go home, albums, CD, musician, music, live,
somewhere around 36 seconds of track 15, it fails, which again could just be scratches. Is that my way of asking for a donation? No, but if you find it on eBay or something, email me a link to it. Literally broken. That's right. Behold the great greenest ESD mat of doom. Yeah, the mat is not my biggest problem right now, but I would like to replace it. I could even just turn it around, get a nice clean surface. I mean, this is bad. I'm looking for the 2-disc version because that's what I have here that's broken. My spare disc is broken, literally. You like worked on workbenches? Well, then you love Draken's videos. Go watch those. Oh my god, that... It almost looks like a dinner tray table type thing, but it is beat to shit. Rough it up with sandpaper so that it shines so much. Alright people, this has been going on for 2 hours and I'm ready for a break. And I think the PCEngine's pretty well done. I might even come back and do another one yet this afternoon because I've still got plenty of consoles to be working on. And live streaming it does make it more fun, but it does make it take longer as well, so not sure. But for now, I think I'm going to shut her down. Go relax. Appreciate everybody showing up and watching. Still got 60 people watching right now. And our live stream health is still yellow. Which means viewers may be experiencing minor issues. But there's no... when it was red, it had some suggestions, and now it doesn't show any suggestions on what to do. Looks like we had a peak of 91 viewers at one time. That's cool. Alright, officially signing off for this stream. I'll check y'all later.